All right, so moving from anime or Amerime, now we're gonna get to some Hollywood content. I was just see some new films, right? Well, Ricardo, you're gonna talk about the French Dispatch.
Yes.
I did not get to see this. I thought it was gonna come out in theaters. Maybe it did. I don't know. But it's coming out digitally a week from now, I believe it is. But just figure, you know what I mean, you might as well just let me know if it's worth it or not. I mean, I know it's going to be worth it, but I want to hear from you, right?
Right.
And then I will talk about the first two episodes of The Beatles Get Back. So,
Sure.
Start off with French Dispatch. I mean, of course, from the man, the myth himself, Wes Anderson. I mean, his films. Has he had a whack film yet?
Okay, so
He
remember,
probably
remember I
didn't
talked
know.
about. All right, so no, we had it. Okay, so I just a quick aside about Wes Anderson, and then we go get into the film. He's one of those, like, remember I talk about, boomers and catering to the past and old aesthetics.
Uh-huh.
Boy, this man is flourishing. This boy, like he
Boy,
is, and
I know.
it's there's a kind of I don't want to say it's not the most fair argument, but I do understand where somebody's coming from with this. He does cater to a lot of white aristocratic culture, like that aesthetic, like how white rich people live in the 20th century, and this is how the aesthetic looked, and it's a kind of borderline royalty. And I understand where somebody coming from, but at the same time, look, I get it where, white is you'd film in this way. And I would say, at most he is a little tone deaf, right? And yes, there are two movies in particular that really highlighted this. The first is The Darjeeling Limited. This is where
Oh yeah, I remember like hearing iffy things about it, so I skipped it.
three brothers, and they had to go to India, and they had to find themselves in India, and that is a real kind of iffy, this kind of weird. I don't know what to call it, but they're using a country for their own therapy, and it's this kind of depression tourism aspect to the whole thing. And I understand where somebody was coming from. And then the second one was I think, what's the name of this movie? I Heart Dogs, or I Love Dogs, I think.
I Love Dogs.
I Love Dogs, right?
I remember liking it, but I only saw that once though, like once
I
in
Love
my
Dogs,
life.
right? And I Love Dogs had a kind of working tone deficit where a lot of people had an issue with the use of Japanese as alien, and it was still catering to a lot of like little let's call that Orientalism. Well, Orientalism is more Middle East, but you get the point, right? This kind of magical take on Japanese culture, and it was a little tone deaf. I thought the movie was fine, nowhere near as good as Fantastic Mr. Fox, but still fine myself. And that's how I always felt about him as a filmmaker. I'll admit, when I first encountered him as a filmmaker, and this was Royal Tenenbaums, which I liked.
Yeah. That was my intro.
That's the first movie I knew him for. And then the movie with the Student, I forget the one before it.
Rushmore. I thought about Rushmore after.
Right, but I didn't get into Rushmore when it came out. Like when Royal Tenenbaums came out, and I ended up loving that, and I ended up going back to see Rushmore. And yeah, he's catered to white people. Like it's these kind of waspy kind of liberals. Is that right? It's fine. He hardly have any black people in the movie. Again, I don't really have an issue with that, because again, we're going for.
Danny Glover was in Tenenbaums,
right? But you
had to like you have to real think like, right. Oh yeah, he was that, right? Yeah.
Right. But regardless of all of that, forget all of that shit. In my opinion, the man is an incredibly talented filmmaker. Right? He's truly fantastic. I like Royal Tenenbaums a lot, but my personal favorite of his was the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes, which needs to be in my collection as soon as, but or else stick it.
Yeah, arguably one of my favorite.
Dr. Steve Zissou.
Steve Zissou is there, but I don't love it.
I never saw that one.
Yeah, I like Life Aquatic a lot, but I can't say I love it as much. And then he had Moonlight Kingdom and stuff like that. Moonrise Kingdom and stuff like that, which good.
I enjoy Moonrise.
Right. With this, okay, so this movie now, I didn't hate it, but I can't say I truly loved it, but it has a lot of strengths in it. But the main problem with it felt by far the most overly indulgent of his films. Right? So,
oh man.
Right. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I can understand why some people will absolutely hate that shit. But so what it is, the French Dispatch. So what it is, it's this newspaper, and it's run by Bill Murray's character. I forget his names right now. I'd pop up the old Wikipedias.
The wiki,
The old
yeah.
Wikipedias. So just get some names out here. Right. So it plays with these it does a framing device by saying, all right, all of the stories are framed through this newspaper, right? And a bunch of reporters who put themselves in effectively their origin story of meeting Bill Murray's character, who's called Arthur Howitzer Jr., right? He's the editor of the newspaper, right? Dies suddenly, and then they have to, the following, basically a final farewell issue from the perspective of them having to telling the origin story about, and then the main story that gets them that got them into the newspaper and how you met them in the first place. That's the premise, and it's basically them playing homage to this guy who died, basically a guy who died, and they're telling them all these stories, and it builds from that, and it's basically just like a bunch of short movies, like stitched together through this one consistent narrative, and individually they're great, right? I can't take away from that, but because because of the plot conceit, he gets to basically just do everything that he ever did in the past in terms of filmmaking aesthetic and all of his framing devices. It's very indulgent, overly indulgent, I would say. He does it all, literally. It have at least, I'd say it is over a dozen different framing devices in this one film, throughout the whole thing. So the first story is this reporter who's like a cyclist, and he just go around the city just making just basically this French town, this small town, making the slice of life writing of it, and then they reference with Bill Murray and him. I think this character is played by this fellow from Loki. Owen Wilson. Sorry, Owen Wilson.
Oh, Owen Wilson, because
right.
Of course he in this movie, right?
Right, of course. Yeah, so the movie packed with stars, everybody expect, and then people who I didn't expect was in this. But yeah, so it's sorry?
Yeah, typical Wes Anderson fact.
Wes Anderson, and you have usual crowd that's come through. So it's all the boys. So you get everybody to come through. But yeah, so Owen Wilson is this first character. They play with that. Then the second story was basically this. It was the main character was Benicio del Toro's this painter who's a murderer, who painted this famous painting of one of the guards played by Léa Seydoux, and she he painted this nude of her, but it's a real postmodern kind of nude, so it don't really look like a nude, but it was a massive painting, and they push it out, and Adrian Brody was doing the art stuff, and they do a whole thing about that, and that was one story being told. And then they have the third story was with Timothy Chalamet was the star of that, and that was Frances McDormand telling that story, and she was telling Timothy Chalamet this kind of rebellious kind of a French this French like a kind of rebellious revolutionary type. So he's kind of like a young version of Che Guevara or somebody like that, but in France. And it's a whole thing about that. And they have this whole, which is the chess revolution or something like that. And yeah, that's the whole thing. It's just them bouncing off all of this. And then the last one was pretty cool. This was probably the only black person, of course. This was the Watcher himself. Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, Jeffrey Wright. Oh yeah, okay.
Watcher himself, Jeffrey Wright. Yes, he was the star of this one. He was this fellow who got imprisoned for being gay. And Bill Murray bailed him out, and then Bill Murray paid for his bail, but say, look, you have to write for me and I'll pay you basically from the bail money, well, half of it from the bail money. And then he uncovered this really strange plot involving a kidnapping and a political, intrigue story. And that was Edward Norton's character comes in, and all of them come in, and it had all these side characters, and yeah, it have everybody who you like as an actor in it, pretty much. Henry Winkler was in this. It's like, wait, what? He was in this? He was a side character. Okay. He was in the art story one. Willem Dafoe was in this. He had a nice little side role. He was in the prison one, and so on and so forth. And it's all of these little short stories. So it's a connected sense of short stories done in the framing of a newspaper, done in the framing of just the overall homage to this person as a storyteller, right? And as a newspaper editor. And I thought when you treat it from that meta standpoint, it works. It mostly works. It's just really self-indulgent, but it mostly works. I actually enjoyed for what it was. You know, as I mentioned, Wes Anderson is the person who could make, you know, the bridge between the old and the new. Because the way how this whole conceit is set up is that you can have a television series from this and have it episodically be a different reporter telling a story through the framing of the newspaper.
Wow.
Like that's how I feel about it. Again, this is the producer penny pinching asshole filmmaker side of me saying this, like how to make more money from this in this sense. And yeah, I could imagine like somebody like Netflix or whoever it is picking this up as the franchise, calling it the French Dispatch, and then getting some real young and coming hungry filmmaker to just try to prove themselves, just make a short story in the framing of a news editor or news reporter telling a story, and you're telling some classic, you know, story from the 20th century or whatever it is during the time of the newspaper, and that's his story. And then yeah, just have a season. You can make like a 6-episode season from that or whatever it is. As it is, it really works. It just works as a nice anthology, but anthology stitched together in a working frame, and then stitched together in the conceit of the dead editor. And I thought it was great. Like I can't take away from it. It is, I watched it and I listened. I totally had to have a wider glass in my hand and, you know, eating cheeses with the hoi polloi, right? You know, avoiding the hoi polloi, you know, just being the elites and, you know, watching film. That's what it felt like. It is very indulgent. It is incredibly indulgent, but it works. A lot of it is very good. You know, technique on point as usual, you know, sharp camera angles, in center frame, you know, the usual shit you expect from Wes Anderson. But really, really excellent stuff. It is going to make my top 10 of the year. I did not expect it to be as good as it was. He's a person that does always deliver. But, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, ratings. I'll give it a 8 out of 10, closer to a 9. I thought it was really good. It's just
cool.
Really self-fucking indulgent. Again, this is you have your turtleneck and you're drinking a glass of wine and you're talking in some art gallery somewhere in what you call it, in town somewhere. What's the name of that art gallery used to go? I forget the name.
I forget to talk about
Yeah, that one. Right. It's that bullshit. Right. But it's fun. It's an excellent film, really, really well made. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, nine closer to a 9 out of 10. I'll say 8 out of 10, but it's really like a closer to a 9 to be honest. A very high 8. Yeah, that's my feeling about it. I do recommend it. I do recommend you go see it. You will like it. I think it's well made. It is very funny and charming, and it works for what it is. But it's very self-indulgent. It felt like that. I'll watch it. It has some shots in it. Like, geez, boy, Wes Anderson, you really had to do this? Nah, boy. But it is what it is. If you enjoy his films, you will love it. And it is not his best. I can't say in good conscience is his best. I'll still rate Grand Budapest as my personal favorite of his. But you know, it's up there. I put it above Moonrise Kingdom, and I enjoy that a lot. So, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right.
All right, so moving from Wes Anderson now, let's talk a bit about the Beatles, right?
Nice one.
So, I will talk about the first 2 episodes of the Beatles Get Back.
Right. So,
all right,
yeah,
Ashton, you could come in when you're ready. You don't need to exclude yourself.
But that's not a problem. I haven't seen it as yet.
Right.
I'm a big Beatles fan though, so I'm
right.
really excited to see it. So I'm going to hear your thoughts. And I didn't even know about this Wes Anderson movie until we started talking about it. So I'm super excited to actually watch this movie because I love Wes Anderson. I have a terabyte full with like movies and TV shows, and I have a specific folder just for Wes Anderson movies.
Right.
Would.
Yeah, so this Beatles thing, the reason I was excited for it is because of the director, right? He did this documentary on World War One, and I thought that was so brilliant.
What's the name of it? Let me just find it. They Shall Not Grow Old.
Yes,
this is of course Peter Jackson. I love that movie actually. Yeah.
So anybody catering to the past, again, we're going back to the past of Hollywood, but yeah, anybody who do this kind of pastiche and aesthetic stuff with the past is right up my alley. So when I heard about this documentary, I was like, all right, I gotta go and see this one time. Unfortunately, I am a shockingly busy person and I couldn't find time. And the second I find time, I'm too tired and I was going to take a sleep anyway, sadly. So take it away. Tell me if this was amazing as I expected it to be.
Yeah, well, I will talk about time with this one in particular, right? So All right, so just to kick things off, yes, this is a docu-series. It's directed by, the man, the myth, the legend, the second man, the second myth, the second legend, Peter Jackson, right? Of course, you know him from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, to extent the Hobbit trilogy that everybody asks for. Like just the other day, I think he called Mortal Engines. I think he did that.
Right.
I didn't care to watch that because
Right. Yeah, that came and went. Yeah.
Yeah, that just came and went, right? Whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But what intrigued me, of course, is when he did that documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old, right? Which I believe was in tribute to his grandfather who served in the First World War, or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah. Well,
where
much
he-
like
he
much
bas-
like with oh gosh, the Trinidadian. I think it's the 100th anniversary.
Oh,
coming up.
right. Well, with 1917, right? Yeah,
Right,
Sam
right,
Mendes. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah,
same,
where-
same kind of you're celebrating the anniversary of the war because there's 100 years about that.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So basically, just like with they shall with that war documentary, basically he just took black and white footage, right, that was shot during the
Right.
war, and digitally
And
colored
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Right.
and made it look so great as great as it could look, but it looks so good, right? In this case here, it's basically doing the same thing roughly that another show, which just letting you know one time is in my top 3 right now as far as best movies of the year go. Sum of Soul is. It's basically Peter just acquiring all this footage, but basically what it is that there's a project that was called the Get Back Project, right? It's just roughly like 60 hours of footage and about 150 hours of audio recordings, right? So the idea, right? I don't think I'll get the full details here, right? Because this is going off from memory. The idea was that initially, because this is like if you're a Beatles fan, right? If you was in like a Beatles fanatic, right? Which admittedly I am not, but I do respect and I do love the band. I mean, they crank out some of the greatest songs ever. The one thing that I do own that is Beatles is A Hard Day's Night, but as the Criterion Blu-ray, right? I own that. I'm not ashamed of seeing that, right? It's a great film, right? But yeah, basically this story takes place right after that era, which was that era being the the Beatlemania era of the 1964 now. And that was the moment that a lot of music heads will say this was where the tide really changed. And this was where this was where like everything changed as far as pop culture goes, right? Like it was a certain way, like in the 40s, 50s, and then Beatlemania hit and everything just changed, right? So here was like Beatlemania was already done. Everybody was just kind of just learning about the world and about life, going India and hooking up with Hare Krishnas and just coming up with more psychedelic music and all that kind of stuff, right? So where this show really starts off now is just like, we had a TV special, and this was like the first time that they actually performed in a while because there was some issues. I believe it was in Memphis involving the KKK and some other issue in Manila with, I believe it involved some people. I think it was something that one of the band members basically saying that they bet the bigger than Jesus Christ, and people in Manila just took offense to that and started.
That was a big thing. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean they're a little rusty. I mean they're not as popular as they were back then. And artistic directions. They're not doing the music they did back in the mid '60s, right? But we're in the late '60s now. And basically, the plan is that they're going to do a TV special, right? It's in this studio that was going to, I think they were going to shoot a film about a couple weeks after this TV special, right? So yeah, it's just all the band members, just coming through and just performing. But and they'll just have it live, they'll film it live basically, and then they just move on to do something else, right? But in the process now, they decide that they will actually come up with some new material, right? They don't want to perform the same stuff from before, right? But that material will end up becoming, both the album Let It Be and the documentary that came from it, right, which was released in 1970, right? This is directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg, right? What we've seen here is just all the footage that was shot that will lead up to it. I still haven't seen the documentary, so I haven't seen the Let It Be documentary, so I can't say, oh well, this is exactly like they take bits of it and put it in that movie. I can't really say for sure, right? But yeah, basically it's like them just coming up with ideas that will eventually become an album, and instead of a live show, it becomes a documentary, right? So we just kind of seen this creative process take place, right? But it's over the course of 2 weeks, right? So it's literally everyone in this large sound stage, and they just doing these sessions. They just kind of like trying out new ideas. Basically, John John Lennon and Paul McCartney pulling songs from what they did like way back when they were teenagers. Ringo Starr is just this guy just on drums, just kind of just watching everything, and George Harrison, always coming through with some creative input. There's actually a moment where he felt like people like they were just kind of ignoring his stuff, and he actually like left the band, and then like in the second episode he comes back now. So maybe a Beatles fan could come and tell me, hey, they actually worked it out, because they didn't really specifically stop and say, well, they spoke about it and now they're back, right? They just kind of say, well, yeah, they try to reach him and he get in touch with them and he back now, right? But whatever. But yeah, just to talk about the show itself, right? So speaking of time, right? So on paper, right, this is a brilliant concept, right? In terms of you're actually seeing studio sessions of one of the greatest bands in music history, right? Like, I mean, if you're a Beatles fan, you will kill yourself to see this, right? And it's great just seeing the creative output, just seeing how, especially John and Paul, but like Paul to me is like the MVP of this whole show. This the creativity, just the way how he just comes up with like lyrics and ideas on the fly, and John is just always complimenting me. You can just see that camaraderie between the two of them, right? And it's just how and you could tell just off of this footage alone how deeply passionate they were about music, and how talented they were. Like, bar none, they were great lyricists, they were great guitarists, right? They were just great musicians. True. I mean, that's not to say that Ringo and George not great as well too, but really John and Paul, boy, them on top, right? So it's just great seeing all this kind of stuff, right? I forgot to mention too. I had to mention this because this is a Disney Plus release. They made it abundantly clear that the show has mature themes. It has explicit language, quote unquote. It's just like probably like 4 or 5 fucks you'll hear throughout. But it's just true dialogue, right? It's not like a man will stop and be like, fuck you. It's like, no, they will just kind of mention it
casual,
like casual, right? And
it's like the show.
Yeah, exactly, right? And smoking, because there's a lot of smoking in the show. And oh my god,
it was
Disney Plus smoking. Oh.
Well, it was the 60s, so yeah.
Yeah, no, but I talk about cigarettes. Like I was watching because like, hey, nobody smoking weed though. Like, all right, okay, that's weird. But yeah, there's a lot of people smoking cigarettes and shit like that, right? But it's kind of funny that they actually have this as a disclaimer at the beginning of each episode. But I do have to give credit to Disney Plus for just putting it out as quote unquote raw as possible. If you remember last year with Hamilton, which was my favorite film of last year, they censor a couple of fucks which were uttered during that performance, right? But whatever. Yeah. But I mean, at its heart, this is like roughly a PG-13 affair, But again, it contains lots of smoking, so all right, cool, whatever. But it is a really, really cool idea, and just seeing how they were able to do this is great as well. And at first glance you think, it's just in this soundstage, but things eventually do happen, and they end up moving to their studio, and it's just different shenanigans, nothing too serious. It's just like, we want to do this, but this sponsor pull out, or we run out of time here, and this is one thing I really dug about the show, like just how the creation of songs, especially for somebody like me who not really as far as studio sessions go, but just seeing how they will come up with ideas, but some of them will work, some of them don't work. Sometimes they throw away the ideas and come back to it, and it's those kind of things now. That being said, though, for some people, like I would say for diehard fans, they will just be in love with this. They'll be in awe of this. If you're a music head, you'll just love seeing the craft that goes into it, right? But for everybody else, you'll find this to be boring. You'll find this to be dull. and they'll find this to be redundant. It's even worse because they're literally like singing over certain songs, refining them over and over and over. Like the song itself, Get Back, it's refined and redone so much times in this show, in this, 2 episodes I've seen so far. It's kind of ridiculous, right? Even Let It Be, you hear it so much times, it's like, well, this is not the final version. Like what are you doing? You know what I mean? And
right.
as you
Right.
mentioned,
Yeah,
self-indulgence before, right? As you mentioned, self-indulgence with Wes Anderson, this could feel kind of self-indulgent as well too, because
yeah,
like so not knocking the editors, not knocking the director involved, right? Because remember, it's X amount of hours of footage that you have to take and put this thing together, right? But the run times for these episodes, though, like the first one clocks in at 2 hours and roughly 2.5 hours, right? Including credits. The next one clocks in at nearly 3 hours. And there's so much moments in it. And you understand logistically why it has to be there, because it's mostly dialogue. It's characters. It's individuals meeting, talking, discussing, trying things out, right? So you want to get the sense of it's a cinema verity thing that you want to get the sense that you're there watching this stuff play out, and they'll just show you as much as possible before they will cut to the next day. Because that's what they do. They show you it chronologically now. But there's a lot of time spent on those days with them fine-tuning ideas and coming up with creative ideas and stuff like that now, that it just kind of blurs, like the days kind of blur into each other. They just kind of feel the same. They feel routine-like in a sense. So even when they move to the studio itself in the second episode, it still kind of feels a little redundant now. But yeah, for some people going into this, they'll just be bored out of their skulls. To just be like, all right, like just get to the point, right? But again, I understand the nature of it. I understand why it has to be that way. But I would confess that, yeah, it does. These episodes, I only talk about the first 2 so far, right? They do run far too long. I just had to say, they just run far too long. Like, I would say,
right.
You could just shave off, because I went in expecting these episodes to be like 2 hours, 2 hours each there. Not 2.5 hours and 3 hours and all that kind of thing. Like, give them 2 hours. You easily could have shaved off 15, 20, even a half hour out of this, and you wouldn't have missed anything, Jed. I understand you want to get the feel and the scope of things and what was going on, but it's not really like dire. It's not really anything over serious, like, oh, this is the moment that changed the face of the Beatles forever. No, it's just things happen and people bust out and people come back and things like that. Just simple things that happen, you know what I mean? But it's not like if you took out anything, like, like the same amount of time I said before, you would have lost anything. I don't think so at all. But I would attribute that to, Peter Jackson just being Peter Jackson. I mean, you could see it clearly. He's a fan of the Beatles. Clearly, he just wanted to show as much as possible.
Right.
I mean, you could say, yeah, I mean, there was stuff that was cut out regardless, but still, with these episodes, they still feel long. They still feel like they just drag on and on and on, right? But what really holds everything together, of course, is just seeing the Beatles just being in their element, just doing their thing. And then, of course, again, huge fan of film restoration, just seeing everything just look so crisp, so clear. I mean, yes, it's shot in 1969, but still, it looks so incredibly amazing, just visually, right? And of course, just hearing the songs, some of your favorite songs, hearing some deep cuts, hearing them sing covers, because that's what they do too. They just like, it's just having fun now, so they will sing covers of old rock and soul and, blues songs, and they will just kind of come up with ideas and all that kind of stuff. Now, it's just a testament to how great and how talented these guys were, right? So, I pretty much suspect that the third episode is going to play out the same exact way as the first 2, so I might as well just rate it one time. So rating wise, I will still give this a lighter, decent 4 out of 5, man. I think this is absolutely worth checking out. If you are a Beatles fan, you should check this out. If you're a music nerd, you should check this out. If you've just never seen how a studio session looks like, or you just always wanted to know how musicians come up with ideas, you know what I mean, whether it's lyrics or beats and all that kind of stuff, right, or melodies, you should watch this, right? I imagine if you're a Beatles fan, you will love everything about this though. But I imagine even if you are, you will still find these episodes to just run for way too long. It's Peter Jackson doing the trilogy thing again. Like literally, it's 3 episodes, right? But you could have just cut out so much, and you wouldn't feel like you missed anything at all, Dred. So,
Right.
But I would just in closing though, I do give credit to the fact that this was released as it is a mini series, right? And released it like in 3 consecutive nights now. So I would say watch them one by one, like a day, like once a day, right? But don't do it like when you're coming home from work and it's like, oh yeah, I just want to rock back and chill and watch Get Back, because you probably will be asleep like halfway into the episode. But this is one that you have to go in kind of knowing, okay, I'm in this. Let me just sit down. Let me just not have anything distracting me. And let me just dive into this, right? So at the end of the day, this is not going to be for everyone. But I would say once again, if you're just a fan of, if you're just a fan of music, if you're a fan of the Beatles, yeah, this is worth checking out, man. So yeah, check it out.